All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Good evening and welcome to the May 18th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff, Jen, Alyssa, Liz, Mark, Amy, and I will let Preston in anyway. All right. So we are lacking at the moment. So Pat is incognito, but she will be the appointed alternate. And remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Please refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes need to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments, questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. And as per Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19, allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. And at the moment, I know of no hearings that are being continued. So, first up is vote minutes, April 27, 2022. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and pending any comments this evening, I'd move approval.
Second, O'Brien.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
You? Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted.
Excuse me, Jamie. I don't mean to interrupt, but 31 Beckles has asked for a continuance. I'm sorry. They came in very late today.
Okay, that's good. So those of you listening and possibly waiting, 31 Beckles Road will be seeking a continuance. So you may not want to stick around. You don't need to, let's put it that way. Love to have you on board though. All right, next up, minutes, May 4th, 2022. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes and pending any comments this evening, I'd move approval as written.
Second, O'Brien.
Steve, that was well said. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes as submitted. Next up, requests for determination of applicability. First up, Brian J. Cormickinen. Sorry if I got the name wrong. 59 Grand Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to meet Title V standards. Melissa?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Gladfelter.
Pat,
Harris,
second.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's no questions. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, there's a, someone from the Morse Engineering Group has their hand raised. Alyssa, are they the representatives on that RDA?
Let me check. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, they are here. I am going to promote them up to a panelist if they'd like to say a few things.
Can we just accept the recommendation?
Yes, you did, Mr. Chairman, but they have their hand raised, so I just feel it's appropriate to let them in real quick.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Apologies for that. I was just on the call just in case you wanted the presentation for that project. So.
All right. Sorry about that, sir.
No, no problem.
You're
Thank
all
you.
set. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Anthony R. Coskren, Nicholas P. Coskren, and Matthew R. Norton, 64 Thomas Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove the existing deck and porch, to construct a new porch, and to install dry wells. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Make a motion to accept staff's recommendation. Gladfelter.
Pat,
O'Brien,
second.
second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Chris Carney, 26 Lauren Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a pool with a pool apron, fence, and storage area. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So I'll move to accept staff's recommendation. Gladfelter.
Pat, second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Gansett Trust, care of Jim Ware, 0 Gansett Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to relocate an existing licensed pile and to add 2 new piles at the end of an existing licensed float. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
I'll move to accept
Anyone?
staff's recommendation. Gladfelter.
Pat and second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Richard A. Kendall, 26 Green Harbor Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing deck in the same footprint. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Make a motion to accept staff's recommendation. Pat.
Gladfelter, second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's nothing further. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I,
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, continued requests for determination of applicability. Starbucks Holdings LLC, 15 Beeman Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install and maintain a Title V septic system upgrade and leaching trenches. Sorry about that. Took over that one. Ms. Bergeron?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
make a motion to accept staff's recommendation, Pat. Excuse me, Chair.
Gladfelter, second. Oops, sorry, Steve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's nothing further. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I, the dog was barking.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the staff's recommendation. Next up, requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And as a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Matthew J. and Elizabeth B. Rader, 10 Meadow Neck Road, Walk Point, Mass. For after the fact permission to modify a set of access stairs to remove an unpermitted platform and ramp and to restore the salt marsh. Jen?
Sorry about that. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli up to present his project.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The property in question is number 10 Meadow Neck Road. It has water frontage on the Moonicus River. The resource areas include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There is a band of salt marsh. I will point that out to you. There's a narrow band of salt marsh here. There's a sloping landform that meets the definition of a coastal bank. The top of bank is delineated here in this red color. There's land subject to coastal storm flowage from the blue line seaward. This area, this land on the waterfront edge is also within an area of critical environmental concern. The balance of the site is just over an acre. There's a single family dwelling here, driveway, parking, all outside of jurisdiction. Back several years ago, the Conservation Commission issued an order of conditions. It allowed for access stairs from the top of the coastal bank at the edge of an existing path down the coastal bank to just the edge of salt marsh, not into the water, because anything seaward of mean high water would require a Chapter 91 license, and Chapter 91 license are not obtainable if it's also an area of critical environmental concern in Falmouth. because we don't have a harbor management plan at this time. So the original application was just to gain access for to the water for launching kayaks, etc. The property changed hands. There was no certificate of compliance. We inspected the site for compliance and found deficiencies. We were hired to hopefully get permission to correct the deficiencies. So what I'm showing you here is the permitted alignment in red, approved stairs shown in red, and what was actually constructed in black, including this shaded area that was a platform, unpermitted. I met with staff on site. We went over it. What I expected to be the result and what we anticipating having to do was make the structure the same size as what was approved, do not allow it to go beyond mean high water, and certainly not to have this platform. So we're proposed to remove this platform. There's some fringe edges of salt marsh that after this is removed would have to be planted to restore the edges of the salt marsh. This ramp at the edge was not approved, so we're proposing to remove this ramp. That's what this note indicates. And that leaves us with the same size structure that was approved, which is the stairways and the landing at the top. It was just built at an angle from what was the actual approved orientation. So we're hoping that you'll allow us to continue to keep the portion that's the same size as what was approved, but in a different alignment in place, but to remove the portions that were not approved. I think that sums it up, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Jen, you want to begin?
We don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. The only thing the board, if the board wanted to add some extra mitigation for the ramp, Mike, it's because the ramp extends landward, right?
Yeah, the ramp extends landward, and I'll share
Do you know
this.
what do you know what the square foot difference is from what was approved to what was built?
If we remove the ramp and the platform, we're effectively the same square footage. So we intend to remove that ramp. And
Oh, you
certainly
do?
the
Okay.
platform. We intend to remove this ramp and certainly the platform.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time unless Alyssa may have something.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. So Jen, are you suggesting that they can keep that landward ramp?
What was that?
Are you suggesting that they can keep that landward ramp?
I would say that if they propose to keep the landward ramp, there should be mitigation attached to it. But at this time, Mike just said they're proposing to remove it.
Right. We don't have any intention to keep the ramp.
Okay, fair enough. Just looking for clarification.
Mhm.
Does this project otherwise meet standards for a certificate of compliance?
I mean, it's in a slightly different configuration, but if the board were to approve this, then we could issue compliance on the old order. And then, you know, once everything is removed and everything, issue compliance on this order.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Comments, Betsy?
Yeah, so I have no questions, and there'd be no sense to change the orientation right now. That would cause a lot more damage. I mean, it's fun. It's a good solution.
All right. Kevin?
I agree. What's there now, with the ramp taken out is fine. I think it's a clever solution.
All right. Pat?
No questions or comments. I agree with Betsy. This is the best resolution.
Good. Peter?
I agree with everyone else.
All right. Steve?
Oh, no questions. I think we covered it. Nice job.
All right. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mike,
Paul,
once again, thank you for the short and sweet. Love it.
Thank you.
And just getting right to the point. There's a problem, we're fixing it and move forward. That's what we like.
I'll
So
make a
with
motion.
that,
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement and give Mike an attaboy for the easiest one he's had all year.
Don't jinx it.
Really. Pat and second, good clients help.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement if there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you. I'll be standing by for my next one.
Do you have a script you read when you introduce yourself at these, Mike?
No, it's just recall and it gets my voice stable.
All right, next up, Bruce and Hetty Bush. All right, 172 Grand Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct the existing roof, to remove an existing landing and cantilevered shelf, to construct a rinse station and landing, to install dry wells and mitigation plantings, and to construct a cantilevered deck. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Raul up to present his project, and I'm trying to figure out how to put Mike back into attendees. I just messed up.
Raul, you're up, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Bush, for their project at 172 Grand Ave. This project is an existing residence, and the homeowners wants to do improvements to the existing house. The house is a two-story house. It's a 4-bedroom house. And what the homeowner wants to do is improve mostly the second floor of the house by raising the roof slightly higher and also adding a dormer to the front. This is one of those rare conditions where the existing house is 4 bedrooms, but the proposed modification reduces the total number of bedrooms to 3. There's currently 2 bedrooms in the first floor. The remodeling will be 1 bedroom in the first floor, 2 bedrooms in the second floor will continue to be 2, but with more space. There's also a proposed cantilever deck off of that second floor. The property is within within 100 feet of several resources: land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is happened to be a velocity zone, and coastal banks. The bank on the subject property is mostly riprap armored sloped, but the abutting property to the north and to the south, it is an eroded coastal bank. So the buffer zones that apply here, the most restrictive ones are buffer zones A to that eroding coastal banks to the 2 abutting properties. So the entire property falls within that 75-foot buffer zone A to those eroding coastal banks.
Excuse me,
project,
Raul, can you
yes?
share your screen?
I thought I had done that, sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize for that. I thought I clicked the button. So yes, so this is the house in the orangey color, and I'm gonna just draw over where those resources are that are most restrictive. So there's a eroding coastal bank to the north on the abutting property, and eroding coastal bank to the south. 75-foot buffer zone A's come out to be at this location, which happens to fall within the layout of Grand Avenue. So the entire property is within buffer zone A. The raising of the roof happens at this location of the existing house. The garage roof will stay the same. There is an existing landing and stairs on the back of the house that's going to be relocated to this location. In terms of footprint, it doesn't gain or reduce because it is existing deck beneath those stairs. At this location, we have the proposed cantilever deck. And at this location is the proposed green station. Overall, there's a proposed 43 square feet of increased development in the buffer zone A. So we're proposing 130 square feet of mitigation plantings on this southern easterly location. We chose this location because it is the closest to part of the erosion that's happening that is also within this subject property. We did receive staff comments, and staff noticed that there was a tree that was removed somewhere in this location. We consulted with the developer and the homeowner. The homeowner just purchased the property last October, and they have not done any cutting on the property. So that tree removal must have happened by the prior owner. The tree that was there, I'm not exactly sure what kind of species it was. Some of the pictures that, or the picture that staff included in the staff report was from the realtor's website. And even from the picture, I myself don't know what kind of a species it is. What we ask, if the commission chooses to, instead of planting a tree at this location because of the stability of the coastal banks near this property, would be to, instead of a tree, to plant shrubs in place of a tree. A tree, once it grows to a certain height, the wind sweeps so much on the tree, it kind of loosens the soils. If we keep it at shrub size species, the wind would not disturb the soils as much, but I'll leave it up to the commission. So we have a proposed limit of work all along the north, the east, and the south property. And in addition to the mitigation that's required for this project, the second improvement we're doing is collecting all the roof runoff downspouts. Currently, they do discharge to the surface. So what we're proposing is dry wells to collect all those roof runoff. There is no septic system on the site. The property is serviced by town sewer. So in terms of septic, there is no changes on the property. And I'll stop sharing and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Raul. Jen?
Staff feels that there's no trees at all on that property, so a tree would be beneficial on that property, Raul, but we don't have to put the tree where the road and coastal bank is. It can be placed somewhere else in that buffer zone. Okay, maybe where kind of like you're proposing the mitigation, put it down in that area. Okay. And I think that's it, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I just had 2 additional points. I noticed that the vegetation along the coastal bank is being trimmed.
Oh, yes.
So just a note to the homeowner that the mitigation is allowed to grow to its full and mature form. Also, just because we're working in the velocity zone, just something to note that we're working with a 43 square foot increase. Last couple times we've had that just denoted on the plan for future reference. If that's something you can do for me, that would be great. And that's it. Thank you.
So Alyssa, are you looking for a revised plan with that little 43 square foot increase on it?
Yeah.
Sure. Raul, if you could shoot that over to us, that would be great.
Just a comment on that. The entire property is in the velocity zone. So the table that shows increase in development of 43 on the property just implies that everything is in the velocity zone.
All right.
Jamie, may I say something? Raul, I think I would like it specifically called out because you're only allowed 200 square feet addition in the velocity zone, and this is the first bite of that apple.
Understood.
Anything else, Betsy?
That's all. Thanks, Jamie. And I have no questions.
Okay. All right. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Peter?
I just want to make sure that the cantilevered second story balcony is included in the mitigation.
It is.
It is.
Okay. No further questions.
Yeah, Steve?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat. I just saw Courtney. I tried to promote him and he disappeared.
So Jamie, would you like a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement and let Raul go home for the night or stay home.
Pat and second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Brian, I.
Pat,
Harris-I.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. And Raul, thank you for a very concise presentation.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Raul gets an attaboy too.
Raul, are you done for the night?
Yes, I believe Mark Dibb is doing the next hearing.
He's gonna do the next one? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, next up, Melissa T. Odell, George Veronis Revocable Trust, 54 Sam Turner Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade the existing sewage disposal system and install conduits under the existing driveway. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, here comes Tom Bunker. And Courtney should be right behind him. Courtney, you have to do something on your end. And
Sorry,
Court,
Tom, hang on one second if you don't mind.
Yep.
Is Courtney coming in or not?
yeah,
There he is.
Courtney's here.
Just want to make sure he's in from the beginning of your hearing, Tom.
Here
Hello,
he is.
Courtney.
How you doing?
Court.
Sorry to be late.
Not at all. All right, Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you. As for the record, my name is Tom Bunker, representing the Odells in this application to upgrade their septic system. We had originally filed it as an RDA, but it has too much dewatering and other issues with it. So filed it now as a notice of intent. Withdrew the RDA and filed a notice of intent. If I may, I will share my screen and I'll get on with it. The right thing there. Okay, you got that? So the property, it's a pretty special property around the backside of Crooked Pond, coming from Sam Turner Road. It's a little confusing getting there because it has a Sam Turner Road address. Anyway, this property, if you've been there, down a dirt driveway, has this cottage right on the shore, overhanging the shore a little bit of Crooked Pond. And it's situated between Crooked Pond and then there's a wetland through here with a certified vernal pool. And the wetland was flagged by Mark Manganello of LEC Environmental Consultants. And we located the edge, quite an obvious delineation of the pool through here. So pretty much the entire site is within Zone A of the vernal pool. It runs way up around here, around up near Williams Hollow Way and back down. But then also this wetland surrounding the pool, it's hydrologically connected to Crooked Pond. There's a very narrow isthmus of sandy soil here. So I put it on the plan that this wetland would be considered to border on Crooked Pond, which is in a Zone 2, so it has a 100-foot Zone A, which I've drawn up further inland up through this location here. Currently, on the plan, we don't know exactly where, nobody knows exactly where the so-called septic system is, the existing somewhere in the, could be an old steel drum for all we know, but it was pointed to as being out here somewhere by the owner. Probably never been pumped recently or anything. So what we're proposing is to discontinue this, pump it out as best we can. I'm sure it's down in the groundwater. Pump it out, fill it, decommission it, put in a 2,000 gallon H20 1500 gallon septic tank, 500 gallon pump chamber in one unit right here. This will be, depending on the season, if they do it now, it'd be quite a bit in the groundwater. If they waited till July, the water is about 2 or 3 feet lower. In July, when we first came out here, the elevation was 28.6. In March and April, it was elevation 30.5. You can see how the elevation of the pond and therefore the groundwater changes. But the best time to do it would be in the summer, when the groundwater would be the lowest and be the least amount of pumping into a dewatering basin. There are no plans at the time to change the house at all. This is purely a septic upgrade. From the pump chamber, it's a 2-inch pressure PVC pipe up the driveway, and then over to here. There's a distribution box up near Williams Hollow Road and a leaching area in this location. The leaching area is 110 feet from the vegetated wetland, and that's 110. Yeah, we show the 100 feet to the limit of work, or 100 feet to the zone A. The septic system is 110 feet from the vegetated wetland, and the leaching area is 118 feet from the vernal pool. So it meets the requirements, the Falmouth wetland regulations requirements for separation, both horizontal and vertical, and the Falmouth health regulations for the placement of a septic system. This tank, by the way, the reason we have it 25 feet from the wetland is that's a Title V regulation. To be a septic tank must be 25 feet from any vegetated wetland or water body in that location. When the road is being dug up for the pressure line, they also want to put in conduit from this utility pole here, so they can run electricity underground. When that is done, I suppose we'll take the wires off, file another RDA just to take the wires down and remove the poles, so the trees won't get in the way of the wires and the wires won't get in the way of the trees. And then another item up here by the road is to put in a 500 gallon propane tank buried. Because it's too difficult there's no place to put a large tank, and it's too difficult to get deliveries of the propane down that driveway. So I want to put a propane tank up here, protected by a few bollards protected from any traffic mishaps down there. And so there'll be the septic pipe, a conduit for electricity, and the gas line will run down all within the existing driveway. There's no intention or no plans to remove any of the trees, and if done, as it said in the narrative, if any of the trees gets too damaged or removed, they'll be replaced in kind, and the surface of the roadway will be put back into its as good as it is now, or better, as far as a gravel surface to drive on. And this, in there, you notice that all of this is grass. It's not gravel or any other surface. So this will be, the grass surface will be reinstituted where it is now grass. So there'll be no increase in impervious or surface that will not support vegetation. And that's the proposal. So I can show you this, just a couple things. Aerial photo from 1950. That's the house, the driveway and the house. And that's the garage right up there. So this all did. You see some of the wetland right there, the vernal pool. And another oddity of mapping. The priority habitat, Crooked Pond is down at the bottom of this. So the septic tank and leach pump chamber going in the lawn here within the priority habitat. But then all the other work will be coming out of the priority habitat and the system up there. So does not have to be, we sent the NOI to the natural heritage people, but it is exempt from review because it is upgrading a septic system within previously disturbed area within the habitat. And so I'll take that down and take any questions.
Sir, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to promote more. Yep, hang 1 second. Maybe it'll work now. The only concern I have, I don't have any questions. The only concern I have is the placement of the tank. I understand the constraints you're in, Tom, and Tom and I spoke about this. When this house is redone, your regulations are going to require the house to be pulled 25 feet back from the water's edge, land under water bodies. It's, you can't move any closer than the present primary structure or 25 feet, whichever is furthest. And in this case, 25 feet is going to be further from that wetland. So I just want to make sure, Tom, that the tank is positioned which in a way which will allow this house to be moved back.
It can be, well, two things. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The house is now and will be on posts, which we can put close to the tank. But I also think your regulation does say that an expansion of the structure cannot be closer than 25 feet. It doesn't say that the existing structure has to move back 25 feet. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it and make sure it's done according to regulation.
Well, I don't want, and if you're going to be required to move the tank again, you might be required to move the tank again, Tom. So the tank, if I am correct, and I will double check that, if I am correct, and that house does need to be moved back 25 feet from the water's edge, putting the tank where it is, the tank's not going to be considered the hardship. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's correct.
Okay. Just understood. Just so you understand. Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Jen, back to what you just said, the area would require the house to be moved back. He was going to tear it down, rebuild it.
Yes, that's what I think.
Okay. All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Maury, did you hear enough of this hearing to start to comment?
Maury, you're mute.
No, I did not hear enough of the hearing. I came in way at the end. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. Didn't want to ignore you. Pat?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Peter?
No questions. Thank you.
Steve?
No questions.
Right. Betsy?
I have no questions. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Courtney?
Tom.
Basically, I have no questions. My only comment is this is, I think Tom has done the best job he can in a tough situation. And it's well thought out. And if he has to make revisions down the road, you do it. But we're going to see things like this as we go forward. No other comments.
It's a terrible location. I mean, they should just abandon it and walk away. I mean,
yeah, well, that's tough. You can always do that.
All right.
Yep.
And is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Does not appear to be anything in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman, and no hands are raised.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to
Make a
close the
motion.
hearing and take it under advisement. Sorry, Betsy, I jumped the gun on you.
Yeah, you haven't been here, Courtney. We already have a rhythm going with Steve and Kevin and me.
All
I'll
right,
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there is nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Filter eye.
Courtney,
bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good
Night, Tom.
Good night, Tom.
Next up. All right. Stephen and Stephanie Kazak, 39 Jetty Lane, West Falmouth, Mass. Permission to raise, RAZE, an existing dwelling, construct a new dwelling, and upgrade the existing sewage disposal system to meet Title V standards. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The property in question is number 39 Jetty Lane. I'm sharing with you an existing conditions plan. The property is the last house down at the end of the cul-de-sac on the right-hand side. It has frontage on Buzzards Bay to the west. You may remember this property. There was an invasive management plan proposed and an order of conditions was issued. We have applied for a certificate of compliance for that work. The wetland resources include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, coastal beach, coastal dune, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and land subject to coastal storm flowage is shown with the blue dashed lines, and there's a couple of different boundaries. The most seaward is a VE 18, which is on this side of the blue line. There's a wedge in here of VE 17. And then landward of this boundary is AE 16 up on until you get to this boundary where it becomes a non-hazard zone. In addition to the FEMA lines, there's the 25-foot Falmouth designated velocity zone boundary here as a dashed line. And you can see the existing, a significant portion of the existing houses in the Falmouth B zone. I've shown shaded the previously approved invasive management areas, the respective no disturbance zone A and B that were previously reviewed by you from the edge of coastal dune. And then the other boundaries from the other resources are also shown. All of the work that's proposed is more than 100 feet from all wetland resources with the exception of land subject to coastal storm flowage. Now the proposed plan. The proposed plan shows, for your reference in red, the existing house. And I also would like to point out where the 25-foot Falmouth designated velocity zone line is. And the new house has been designed to meet your standards for construction and land subject to coastal storm flowage. It has done that by first proposing the actual house itself outside of all FEMA designated flood zones and the Falmouth wetlands bylaw flood zone. A section of the deck is within the 25-foot Falmouth designated velocity zone. No portion of the structure is in any FEMA designated velocity zone. The house was designed specifically to shift it back so that the main body of the house proper is in the A zone. The deck and house will be elevated, so the first floor is 1 foot above elevation 16 minimum, or what would be elevation 17. The deck is open pilings with nothing underneath, because a portion of it is in your velocity zone. The balance of the work is landward of the proposed house or a lateral to it. In the case of lateral, is the proposed septic system, consisting of a 1,500-gallon septic tank and a leaching field, all of which is outside all velocity zones. The driveway is basically in the same location as the existing driveway. It's been reconfigured because the house moved back. The driveway comes in and sweeps into a space that allows for vehicles to park beneath the building. You can see in a lighter line type the existing driveway here. And now you can see in the darker line type the proposed driveway. The staff report had 2 questions that I think I answered. One was if we knew where the location of the existing septic system was and what would happen to it. Was there any vegetation that needed to be altered to deal with the old septic system? And I answered by email to Alyssa. The existing septic system is the original cesspool. And I'm zooming in on the cover, which is right here. For reference, it's between the existing house and the coastal dune. It's within the A zone to a coastal dune. It happens to be where the path is that leads to the beach. So all that's proposed to be done with that is the cover's going to be popped. It's going to be pumped dry, filled with sand, and abandoned in place. It won't be excavated or removed. The second question raised by the staff asked about a boat that was stored in, I believe, the Wetland Resource. That boat is stored just north of the property, I believe, on this side of the path. It is not my client's boat, and we believe it's off of his property. I think that sums up my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
I believe Mike answered the staff questions unless Alyssa has something else to add.
I don't. Thank you for the clarifications, Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, I think you alluded to this, but was there a certificate of compliance issued for the invasive work?
There was one filed for, but it's pending still. It was just recently requested.
Okay.
Jamie, I think Alyssa, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still working on trying to meet Crawford at the site.
I have met Crawford. We discussed 2 areas where the plantings weren't doing well. So they're going to remedy that and let me know when that's taken care of.
Okay. You're working on that. You don't see there's any issue with it. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Maury, we'll start with you.
I just had a couple questions and Alyssa answered one of them. But I think we should probably, obviously this house is going to take some time to build. So the plantings, if they're not doing well now, we should make sure at the end of this project that they're doing well still. And we should put the first floor elevation. It's not a big deal, but it's not on your plan, Mike.
Okay.
And the 30-inch oak by the driveway, there's no way you can configure to not lose that 30-inch oak. It's like the nicest, biggest tree on the, I know you're trying to swing into the driveway.
I'm going to share my screen again briefly, if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah, this tree you're
Correct.
referring to.
Yeah.
going to be difficult because in order for the turning radius to allow for the car to turn in, we can't move the driveway further this way.
Unless you put it on the property line.
I could possibly shift the driveway over here. I can't say what the root system, it's an oak, and I'm not an expert, but I've seen a lot of oak trees nearby the driveways. I'm not in a position that I can answer that, but I believe my client's in the audience, Mr. Steve Kasuk's in the audience.
That would just, if you can do it, I mean, it's,
Okay.
I know it's in the flood zone, but it's a beautiful tree and will give a lot of shade for that house. So thank you.
We'll consider it. We'll consider it.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kasuk has his hand raised, so I'm going to be letting him in as a panelist. Oh, he just took his hand down. Mr. Kasuk, if you would like to come into the hearing, can you raise your hand, please? There he is. And the property owner is being let in now, Mr. Chairman.
All right, hopefully that
Kasuk, how are you,
works.
sir?
I'm terrific, thank you. Appreciate everyone's time. Just specifically on that oak, we agree it's a great tree. It does have one massive, I'll call it a second trunk because it's a branch, but it heads off toward the neighbor's side. That does worry me a bit in a number of ways. But if there's a viable way to reconfigure the driveway, and we can keep it, we'd certainly be happy to. We're not, it's not our intent to just take it down because it's easier. The intent is to figure out how to get in and out of the driveway, given that we moved the house to everyone's desire to be out of the velocity zone. So I hear you loud and clear. We'll look at it with Mike, and we'll, if there's a reasonable way to do it, we're certainly happy to. We'd love to keep it. My strong suspicion is it's going to be hard, but we'll look at it as we go.
Thank you. Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Peter?
No questions. Thank you.
Steve?
No questions.
Okay. Betsy?
So I don't have any questions. My only concern was that all of the trees to the back of the property, well, I don't know what you call the front and the back of the house anymore, but to the east side, in addition to this oak, all those trees are being taken down, which I think that's unfortunate, but the best you can do. But I have no questions about the rest of the project.
I can speak to that point, Betsy. In fact, Mr. Kasuk very recently, prior to this hearing, we were having a conversation, and he would like to, there's opportunities to plant new trees. So he's willing to work with staff to try to find some places, maybe to the northwest of the house, there's an open area, and some other places to try to plant back some trees. And we're willing to work with staff to come up with some locations for some new trees.
Okay, that'd be great. I mean, that's a lot of, we're at the time of year where the birds are coming back, and that's a lot of bird habitat in that area that's disappearing, but yeah.
Understood.
So thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mr. Kasuk?
Yep.
Yeah, Kasuk, just the way it's not spelt, but that doesn't.
Mr. Kasuk, okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Thank you. And our objective is to keep, a lot of these trees, as you may have noticed, that 30-inch oak is an exception, but a lot of them are, what I refer to as kind of done as well. They're end of life. There's a fantastic cherry at the corner of the driveway, but if you get up to it, the whole inside of it is gone. So, but part of it is, it's a shame, but we absolutely, intend to replant trees where appropriate, and This has been in the family since the early 1960s, and it's very meaningful to us in the way it was maintained and kept, and that's the way it'll be again.
Excellent.
Thanks.
All right. Courtney?
There's nothing much I can add except that I live in an area very similar to you, Stephen, and face the same dilemmas all the time. I hate to see a tree go, but whatever you can keep is a good thing. But I understand, and you'll compensate for it. And I think the project's pretty well thought out. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I was looking at the architectural plans. I like the truth in advertising. The big room. You tell your kids
Sorry
in
to
the living room.
interject,
They say, what room? The big room.
So the existing house has a big room, and this house was designed to have the same big room. It has the same dimensions. The fireplace is the same, so that when we walk into it, it will, as much as possible, when you're a dozen feet in the air, feel like we're walking into parts of the same house.
Perfect. All right.
I'm-
Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Maury, did you have something else?
Nope, nope. I just said it was a good project. It was nice to see it move back.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli. Thank you, Mr. Kasich.
Thank you all, and have a good night.
Good night, Mike. Are you done?
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Sound like you're dismissing him.
All right, let me move everybody around here.
All right. Next up, continued hearings under a notice of intent. First up, Christopher Tomasini, 303 Shorewood Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling, to reconfigure the driveway, to install a new Title V septic system, to install mitigation plantings and all associated grading, utilities, and landscaping. And for the record, the quorum is everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mark Dibb from Cape and Islands to present his project.
All right. Mark, you're up.
Good evening, Mark Dibb with Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant at 303 Shorewood Drive. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is a continued hearing. We had presented this layout and project at a prior hearing. A concern came from staff that the mitigation in this area was in previously existing vegetated area. So we were asked to relook at the project, particularly the mitigation areas. And so we resubmitted a revised plan. So this is the old plan. We resubmitted an updated plan where we've made a pretty significant change regarding use in the A zone. This is the A line. We removed that driveway connecting the existing access over to the new access. So we removed that cobblestone driveway, all the work associated with that which was pervious area around it, as well as the impervious cobblestone driveway. So we no longer have any trespass of vehicles in the A zone. It all comes off of Shorewood Drive now. And what that did was reduce mitigation requirements, as well as we revised mitigation to now encompass areas of the existing drive that's being removed and areas of lawn, and resulting in almost a removal, well, definitely a removal of all impervious hardscape in the A zone. There is still some new proposed structure in the A, but it's a net reduction in the A. We've provided the updated mitigation area. One thing we did add to the plan are these two small areas of invasive removal. The invasives are overtaking trees and doing what they do in that area. So we have added that in the appropriate notes for that. And we do not have a contractor at this time, but there will be a qualified professional to do that work. We can notify the commission once we do have a contractor. And if I give it off to the commission for any questions.
Thank you. You can stop sharing, sir.
Okay, sorry.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Mark. Thank you for those changes. I think Alyssa had one other question regarding the invasive species. Will you be restoring that area with the same species as the mitigation?
Yes, we will be.
Okay. Okay, and we'll make a special condition about language regarding the qualified contractor. It will probably have to be approved at least at the staff level. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless Alyssa has something else to add.
I just had one thing, and my apologies if I missed it. We did receive a letter verifying that the existing foundation can handle the weight of the second story, and that is the same individual from the previous hearing when we were going through the whole structural civil thing. So I remember that Gary has verified that this individual is qualified to make that assessment. So just wanted to let everyone know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioner comments, Pat?
No comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Peter?
No additional comments except for I congratulate Mark in getting all the concerns worked out.
A lot of attaboys going out there tonight. Steve?
Yeah, and I think we should appreciate Alyssa's work in this particular project as well. So
absolutely.
No other questions or comments.
Thank you. Betsy?
Yeah, just thanks, Mark, for working through those issues. And it's great that the staff has been working with the engineers to alleviate a lot of issues before you come before us. So thanks a lot.
Courtney?
I believe I'm on the forum on this one, and assuming I am.
Yes, you are, Courtney.
Yeah, so I will echo everybody else's comment that you've made a good effort to get everything, our concerns in there, and thank you.
Kevin?
Gee, I would join the chorus of good word and quit while I'm behind. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Maury?
No comments, thank you.
Come on, somebody's got to be the spoiler.
It's up to you, Jamie.
No. This is all good. It's all good. Staff does a great
Jamie,
job.
just give me a while
nice
to get back up to speed so that we're good.
Yeah, right. No, it's just good when everybody's working and we all want the projects to go through
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Jamie. This is very smooth, and I congratulate not only this commission, but all our staff that makes our job easier. And the engineers who pay attention to our staff and come in readily prepared. That's the critical. Thank you.
Makes everybody's life easier. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function? Please.
Not on this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
All
you,
right,
everybody.
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Steve Patton.
Gladfilter second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy.
Gladfilter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Gregory H. Lynch, trustee, John F. Lynch Family Irrevocable Trust, 68 Whitecaps Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct an addition to remove an existing deck, to construct a new deck and landing, and to install dry wells. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just promoted Jacqueline Pauley up. Jack, are you with us? And I will be sharing my screen for Jack. Jack, you're on mute.
He needs to turn his video on too.
Okay.
Jack, you have video?
I do not have the video on. I will chat, share screen, raise hand.
You go down the bottom.
I know. Start video. Okay, I apologize. There we go. Okay, good evening. For the record, my name is Jacqueline Pauley. I'm a civil engineer in private practice. I have an office at 634 North Falmouth Highway. Jen said she would bring the plan on the screen or share the plan I submitted to her.
There you go, Jack.
Great. Again, good evening.
The revised plan dated, what, May 11th?
That is correct.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. The proposed project is on lot 3. It's a 13,000 square foot lot. It's bounded on the south by Jenkins Pond, on the north by Whitecaps Drive, and it has a house on each side of it. Presently on the lot is a house that is this footprint, a deck, which is this footprint, a set of stairs and a walkway over here, and a landing and a set of stairs on the north side. In addition, there's a shed. There are stairs, 2 platforms, a float, and another float. What it is we're proposing to do is remove this deck, remove the landing and the stairs, remove the shed, remove the old landing in the front and walkway, and replace it with a deck and a set of stairs, a new landing and set of stairs. This will remain vacated, and this area will be planted. This area will be planted with indigenous grasses unless the board decides.
Jack, they can't see you pointing at the screen, so you need to kind of talk me where you want to move my cursor.
Okay, let me back up a little bit.
Okay, try that. Let's try this again, Jack.
Okay, if we start at the lower right-hand corner of the existing house and we go clockwise.
Okay.
Have a house corner at the lower right, to a deck at the lower left, to a deck to the upper left, to a house to the upper right, then back to the point of beginning.
Okay.
On the street side of the house is an existing landing and stairs, which, by the way, we're removing and putting new ones in. To the east side of the lot, we're proposing a new deck and a new set of stairs. Where the existing deck is, we intend to remove it and replace it with the first floor and a finished basement directly below. And on the last side, there is a landing and a set of stairs which are going to be removed, which will also be planted. The shed on the lot is to be removed and indigenous plants placed there. On the south side of the lot, there's a sandy area. That sandy area is an area that's used by the occupants of the property, and a wooden set of stairs to platforms to the two floats. The smaller float is going to be removed. The smaller float, the history of it is, I spoke to the Lynches and they said it was a wash ashore 2 years ago. For 2 years, they tried to find out who owned it. No one claimed it, so they used it. The larger float is actually the neighbor's float. The neighbor happens to be related to them, so there's a joint use of that float. The neighbor is intending to get a 10A permit from the harbor master. We advised them to do that, and they are seeking getting that permit. Now, we did meet with staff. We did get a staff report. Because of the first staff report, we continued the meeting so we could address the issues and be compliant with the rules and regulations of both the state and the town. What we've done is in the upper left-hand corner, set up 2 tables which shows you the existing lot coverage in A and B buffers and the proposed lot coverage in the A and B buffers. It's rather detailed. It shows you specifically the square footages of each portion of the existing house to be removed. And it shows specifically the size of the proposed structures that are going to be built. From our analysis, we determined that, and you can see it in the language of the buffer that is to the south of the house by the water, that we intend to provide 249 square feet of indigenous woody species. And we listed 3 species in the lower right-hand corner of the plan. We believe this is consistent with your rules and regulations. I don't want to speak for the staff, but I think the staff concurs with us as to our calculations. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Jen.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I stopped sharing, Jack. It's okay. It wasn't you.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I lost you.
No, I'm the one controlling the screen. I have a couple of questions, Jack, because I'm kind of confused when I looked at your plan and then I'm looking at the architecturals. A couple of things. You're not raising the whole structure, because if you look at the existing house, the pictures of the existing house, and you look at the architecturals, it's like completely different window sizes and everything in the front. So is the whole house coming down, or are you just doing the addition?
They're going to a major facelift of the whole house, but the deck is to be removed, and a first floor is going to be extended.
Okay. Is there going to be a second floor on the house?
No.
No second floors.
Okay, because what you're looking at is the architectural plans. There's a Scrivener's error because the designer has said that it's a first floor. And he notes first floor on 2 sheets, so that's clearly an error on his part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but may I interrupt? The section shows it as a second floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The plan's wrong because you're not proposing floor addition, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
You proposing a second floor addition?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm confusing first and second floor. You're absolutely right. There's a second floor addition. I apologize about that.
So you have the walkout.
That's right. And directly above the walkout is a continuation of the first floor. What they're doing is they're converting that deck and making it enclosed, making it a continuation of the first floor, at which time then they would ascend to a second floor. I apologize. I was confusing the basement with the first floor.
So you're proposing a second floor?
That is correct. The footprint is the same, but there will be a second floor. So the question by the staff was, will the foundation support that? And I responded to the staff saying that the designer has already met with the structural engineer, and he has assumed, or not assumed, has determined that it is sufficient. So I don't think I can comment on it. The architect and his structural designer has determined that already.
We're going to need a stamp from a structural engineer. And this application doesn't show a proposed second floor.
I'm not sure how the plan can show it.
Just make a note, Jack.
Yes.
Alyssa, do we have the architecturals in Laserfish?
If they're not in Laserfish, they're in an email from Jack. I feel like I would have saved them, but I'm not sure.
All right, let me check real quick.
We did submit the architectural plans that were submitted to us.
Okay.
Are you increasing bedrooms?
No. No, the intent all along was not to increase the footprint any more so than we had to.
I get that, but you should state what you're asking for. You're asking for a full second floor.
Yeah,
so the application should say that.
I don't have a problem with continuing the meeting to get a couple things. A certification by the engineer that the foundation is structurally sound, a complete set of architectural plans without the Scrivener's error, and if you think it's necessary for us to re-advertise to the neighbors, we'll do so. If you think it's
There's no need to re-advertise, Jack. If the abutters want to follow the project, once we initially advertise that, it is on any concerned citizen or interested citizen to follow the project. So it's not necessary to re-notify abutters.
Okay.
I do have the architecturals up if anybody would like to see them. I have them up on my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Love to see it.
I'm going to share my screen. Jack, remember, I'm the one controlling the screen.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, those are the first floors. So this is the rendering. So that's what it was like. So Jack, watch my screen. So this is what we caught when we just caught the different orientations of the windows that were there. So down here, that lower level, that walkout level, is that going to be a full foundation? Is that just going to be like a frost wall?
It could be either. Actually, it needs to be a frost wall. I should probably let the architect explain that, but as a minimum, it should be a 4-foot frost wall.
Is the architect here?
No.
Okay. I just want to know how much excavation is going to be done on the property, Jack. So if you've got this existing basement right here, are they taking this wall out of the existing basement, making a frost wall and just making this one room, one level? Or is this going to remain a wall and this is just going to be a room?
This is the way I envision how it has to happen. I think they have to take the deck down, and in the same footprint, they have to put in a 4-foot frost wall.
Yeah.
Time, it'll be about a foot above the finished grade. You then build on top of that frost wall, a traditional wooden wall, which will go from the basement level to the underside of the first floor extension. or the former deck.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And then they would raise the roof over the existing main house and put a second story on.
Okay. Okay. Jamie, you want to see anything else on the architecturals?
No, I just want a clarification. I don't necessarily have a problem with the second floor, but it, it doesn't say that, so I don't want to beat it to death.
Yeah,
But it does bring us back to our
misleading, and I forgive me.
Back to our concern about a second floor and the foundation being ample to support it. And then they coming back later and say it's an emergency because the foundation isn't adequate. So the application should state that they're adding a second floor. Therefore, we're going to stipulate that, or require, I should say, that engineer's stamp that says the foundation is adequate, so that nobody can come back later and go, you know, we didn't know, now it's an emergency, you have to, you know, give us permission to do this today.
No, that's
So
a fair statement. That's a fair statement. And quite frankly, I did ask the architect if they were going to raise the building. They said no. So I didn't go any further.
Right, but now you get into the semantics of raise, R-A-Z-E, R-A-I-S-E, or, you know, simply raising the height of it. So again, I don't have a problem with the second floor per se. I just have, I just want to be clear that, you know, I've said enough. I'm moving on. Sorry, Jen.
It's okay.
If I understand correctly, then what we need is a certification by the structural designer
Oh, well, yet I'm in me.
about the foundation and clarification as to the footing under the converted deck and a full set of plans. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Please. And again, you said there's no increase in bedrooms, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right. Alyssa, do you have anything?
No, I believe he's covered all of our points. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Skip the step at the beginning, Betsy. I have the quorum. I don't think this was open, so the quorum is everyone. Okay. All right. Commissioner comments. Peter.
I think we have most of the, no comment.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, I think we laid out at least you did, Mr. Chairman, clearly what we are looking for.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh,
enjoyed it.
Betsy.
I'm still a little confused because Jack gave two different answers. So my question is there not going to be excavation for additional basement? And if you don't know the answer to that, then
the area
we need to know that.
Below the existing deck will be additional habitable area. Does that make sense? It will be on a foundation. It'll be closed in. And what I'll do is get the architect to provide those details.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure we know what's going to happen there.
No, that's a fair question.
That's all, Jamie. Thank you.
Courtney?
Fundamentally, I have no questions, but I will echo your comment and to a degree Betsy's. I've been on this commission about as long as anybody. I think only Betsy is either older or you junior.
No, more.
But anyway, the point is I've seen an awful lot, and what I think, unfortunately, Jack's been in front of us so many times, and it's oftentimes you engineers through no fault of their own, look at this as an adversarial relationship between the commission and their presenters. And so what they don't want to do is divulge too much information because they're afraid the commission will jump down their backs and say, no, you can't do it. And I think this commission and our staff has evolved to a point where we work collaboratively. And we want to get the best possible project generated for everybody. And so the more forthcoming you can be, the more constructive we can be to help you get where you want to be. That's my only comment.
Kevin.
Well, I would agree with the previous comments, but I would also stress that there seems to be a lack of what I would consider to be basic, detailed information about what's actually being built or not built.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting at.
I think it's fair to say that you should get more detailed plans. And that's why I don't have a problem with continuing it until you get them. I think it's very fair for what you said.
What I'm really
Kevin,
saying,
anything else?
yeah.
No, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Maury?
The only comment I had was, I see it's just a leach pit. And for the leach field, that they need to show some way that they're gonna protect that. Because if they're gonna do all that construction there, I'm sure I mean, they haven't had leach pits for a while, so I don't even know if it's H20. You might wanna submit an as-built, the old as-built in there, just so you know what you're dealing with. So you don't cave her in. And that's all. Thank you. And make sure that there are no added bedrooms, because I'm sure that's something the Board of Health would be interested in. That's all I have to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat?
No questions, thank you.
All right, so Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Sorry about that. Oh, yes, there is. So there's someone here with their hand raised, so I'll be promoting them up to a panelist. But they did ask the question, is it 2 stories? I think we've answered that question. Did they provide notice to the neighbors on Pinecrest Beach? Notification, ma'am, is required for properties within, properties within 100 feet of the proposed project. So if the residents of Pinecrest Beach Ave are not within 100 feet of this project, they did not get notified as direct abutters. Are any houses on Whitecaps Pond 2 stories? I do not know the answer to that question, ma'am. And I'm promoting a Karen Magno up as a panelist, as she has her hands raised.
Okay.
Ma'am, you're going to have to do something on your end to be promoted up as a panelist. There should be something that's coming up on your computer to accept that, ma'am. Technology. Well, they're not accepting to be a panelist. So those were actually this person's questions in the chat. So I believe I answered them, Mr. Chairman.
Just a point of order. We did notify 10 abutters.
Okay, that's fine, Jackie.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people don't realize, it's mostly direct abutters. It's not, an entire neighborhood or a whole street or something like that, and and Jack, I'll apologize if I appear to have targeted you personally. It wasn't
No.
you, it's the situation.
No, that's understandable.
So just so you know. All right, so there's nothing in the public chat function otherwise?
Otherwise, nope, those were the questions in the chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and you've answered her questions, so.
Yes.
All right. So what are you thinking, Jack?
Jack, I can put you
I
on
wish I could
June
speak to
8th.
The architect. I guess my question is, when are the next two meetings? And if they're 3 weeks out, I'd say 3 weeks is fine. If it's 4 weeks, then I'll have to go to 4 weeks.
I can get you on June 8th, Jack. That's 3 weeks.
Well, that I think is more than sufficient time.
Okay.
Hey,
At the
Jack, are you
requ-
clear on what we're looking for?
I am. You need the structural opinion. You need details of what is being proposed. We need clarification to the basement issue, and I think, and we will get you more information as to the existing location of the septic system.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you end up having any questions about that, just give Jen a call or Alyssa, and they can help so that
We'll help you, Jack.
And I did
We can
check
all
the
be more
records, the
efficient.
building permit or the assessors make it a 3-bedroom dwelling, so it's staying 3-bedroom.
Okay. Courtney?
Yeah, just make sure your drawing is a good cross-section that shows the frost wall foundation, how far it's going in. Because that's really what we're concerned about. What's the impact of that excavation on the project?
Right. I'm not making excuses for the architect.
No,
but I think-
I'm understood. So
I-
I'm just trying to get you to be clear.
Thank you.
All right, so Jen, we have June 8th.
Correct.
So I'll make a motion that we, at the request of the applicant, we continue this to June 8th.
Bird second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this to June 8th. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none and call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat? Pat, are you there?
Harris, aye.
Thank you. Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until June 8th. Thank you, Jack.
Well, thank you. Have a good evening now.
Night, Jack.
Good night.
All right. Next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions, AC Cape Cod LLC, 836 Palmer Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4444 to permit the originally proposed construction access and the removal of trees, and to permit the stabilization and restoration of disturbed areas. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Zach Spinitsky from Bracken Engineering up as a panelist to present the amendment. Zach, is anybody else with you this evening?
Yes, I have Liam DeLowry from South Coast Creations and Sean Tooley from Auto Camp.
I was wondering who all these people were. So
All
we
right,
have
Zach,
South
you're up,
Coast
sir.
Creations in, and Mr. Tooley, I believe you've got, here he comes. Anybody else, Zach?
Maybe a Mimi Defoe. She might be
Nope,
the
don't
other
see a Mimi.
one. Okay. So at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'll just give a brief overview and a presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Again, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. I'm here this evening on behalf of Auto Camp. Here with me is Liam DeLowry from South Coast Creations, the site contractor for the project, and then Mr. Sean Tooley from Auto Camp, Vice President of Construction for Auto Camp. Again, this project is 836 Palmer Road. This is a project that was in front of the commission back 2019 and most recently back in February of this year. At that time, we had reviewed with the commission the construction of a on-site retaining wall to stabilize a erosion concern on the south side of the property. Project, we're back in front of you to amend an order that was issued. I do first want to start off and apologize to the commission that we're here on the terms that we are here tonight. It was an oversight on our part, not understanding the special conditions or seeing the special conditions in the original order. So I do want to first apologize to the commission on that. So reason we're back here tonight is to address the construction means and methods for the project. As previously reviewed, again, it's to construct this proposed retaining wall on the south side of the building. Again, this was to address the runoff that associated with the overflow system or the roof system for the building. As previously reviewed, that system had a significant rain event a couple times last year. During that time, the actual inlets to the roof overflowed and water overflowed the building. This wasn't a result of the on-site drainage systems, but merely just the inlet capacity of the roof systems that caused this overflow. So as reviewed last time, we come in requested to create a 10-foot wide access way, removing trees along the bottom of the slope in order to create a boulder retaining wall into the side of the slope. I've gone back, we did listen to the commission's comments after the hearing was closed regarding the other access and the other means and methods for installing a different type of wall out there. These walls and options were reviewed by us. We did have a geotechnical engineer come out and look at the site. Initially, we wanted to try to do this with from the top, try to come in with shoring, put that in, but unfortunately, what we've discovered with this site is it's the end of what we call a terminal moraine. It was dropped, all this material was dropped by a glacier. It's so inconsistent of what's underneath there. And there's a lot of boulders and on this property, and we've uncovered a lot as we've done construction on the site. So that alone prevented us from putting in a shoring type of system, or sorry, vertical sheet piling system on this. The other types of walls that we looked at using deadman or tieback systems, again, concern with that is the erratics on the inside of the wall or underground that we can't account for. And again, if we went with that type of wall, we feared that we'd be back in front of this commission asking for an emergency amendment, Mr. Matthews. So that's why we never proposed those initial walls and came up with this boulder type of wall. Again, the means and methods for this wall was to construct a 10-foot path through the trees, through the access, through this, in order to create a stable platform to tow the boulders into the slope, and then lay the wall back against the slope. Again, our intent here is not to build a full 80-foot wall. I mean, we did show this on the plan as a worst case scenario. We are here to try to field fit this in to minimize the amount of disturbance to the slope, to minimize the amount of wall. Again, on our side, we're not looking to add weight to the side of the wall. We're just looking to stabilize this slope. We had talked initially about putting fill over the top. A concern that came back from the geotech on that is not being able to stabilize it and get it to cohesively blend into the slope and stay. He was concerned, same thing, if that fill got soaked or wet, that it would potentially slump and lead to more sediment washing out and then eventually ending up in the rain garden at the bottom. So again, that just recapped the design. So it's again, we're also here to address the cease and desist that was issued as part of the project. Again, we did go out, Mr. Delau did cut the trees down. These were the trees that were initially identified on the initial request. Again, just to recap, there were 9 trees inside the jurisdiction of the commission and then 2 trees on the outside. Again, we are looking, speaking for AutoCamp and everything, again, they're looking to minimize the amount of disturbance. They didn't want these trees to come down. Again, this was only because it was the only means and method that we felt was safe to protect the safety of the general public, and then the safety of the contractors to actually construct something on this slope. Again, we talked with Mr. DeLowry about trying to put a piece of equipment at the top when we initially had looked at all this. And unfortunately, the weight of the machines to reach the 45 feet over the slope to do it just prevented us from being able to get machinery to the top. And then to make that work, that was a safe working condition for himself and his company, and then being able to create the stable wall on this. So again, we are proposing to work our way back out, stabilize the base of the wall with some plethora, fill that in. As we work back out, replant trees on the access way out. Right now we're showing 8 trees to be installed, a variety of Tupelo white pines in this area, with another note on the plan to install additional 8 trees on other areas of the site. Again, trying to install all these trees on this slope again would be a detriment to and destabilize this further. So again, we'd ask that if this is amended, that we work with staff to find the acceptable areas on staff or on site to put those in. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it back over to the commission.
Okay, I'm gonna be the bad guy here because it's my turn tonight. So you basically just ignored all the order conditions that you were issued and just went the way you wanted to go. And now you just want us to give you permission after the fact.
I'll be honest, it seems like that, but it wasn't. It was an oversight on our part. I can't apologize much for it. I mean, my career, my 23 years of being a civil engineer and being professional for professional engineer for 15 years, this got past me, and I outright apologize for this, sir.
In your application for this amendment, you don't include, at least I don't see it in my package, your original design. So I don't see any cross sections. I don't see how you're wanting to do it. And if you want me to go back to 2019, forget it.
No, the original design was the original means and methods was submitted back in February for that plan.
Yeah, it should have been submitted with this too.
No, I apologize about that, sir.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Your turn.
I mean, there's not much for the staff to say. I think Alyssa can kind of detail what happened. We had assured one neighbor in particular that were very concerned with the trees when the first amendment came in. Was it an amendment? Yeah, it was an amendment came in. We assured this particular neighbor that the trees were not allowed to be cut, and that we had taken measures within the amended order to ensure they wouldn't be cut and that the methodology would be revised. That particular neighbor sent us pictures of the trees cut, which brings us here today. Once we saw that, we went out on site, and Mr. DeLauer, your company is called South Coast Creations, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so we spoke with the gentleman on site from South Coast Creations and issued a verbal cease and desist because it wasn't following the conditions of the amendment. I think that was the sequence of event. Alyssa, do I have that correct?
Yes, that sounds correct to me. And after our verbal cease and desist, they installed some erosion control. I verified that, and then I think a day or two later, we met back on site and discussed how to move forward from here. Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. Betsy.
I'm just going to echo your comments, Jamie. It's a little disappointing I can understand that they might not have agreed with the changing the methodology, but then you still have to come back and discuss a way to move forward. That's all. Thanks, Jamie.
Courtney.
I don't have anything to add. I agree with you, Jamie. I agree with Betsy.
Okay. Kevin?
Considering that I share or it's on our property line, a stone wall that is a retaining wall for my backyard, I think I'd best not comment.
Fair enough. Maury. Maury, you're on mute.
Because you don't want to hear me sighing. When I see these after the fact debacles, it's very upsetting. And that's quite a debacle there. One of the cause for the slumping was from the roof runoff, am I correct?
It was from the failure of the inlets. We had a historical event that we couldn't plan for. And the water
Well, we have them a lot here on Cape Cod, so you better start planning. because we have a lot of biblical rain here. We really do. I'm really concerned because I haven't seen much that you're doing to remediate or improve or do anything with the roof runoff. Have you?
Yes, we've put a new system in. We've put gutters on the side of the building to address that overflow if the proposed or the existing scuppers don't work. There's an overflow downspout system to catch that water to prevent this from happening again. May I share my screen at this time? I could show you.
Well, I think that, you know, obviously somebody did some very poor calculation and design, and it's very evident in this next stage that is also happening right now. It's a very bad design of whoever went in and cut everything. So I'm really concerned that you haven't really addressed or fixed the problem with the roof runoff. And I don't know, when I went up there and I looked at the green area, the flat green grass area that's up there, there's no drains anywhere, and all that water sheets off that hill. And you just explained to us how unstable it is, which is why you can't work from the top. Yet I don't see any way that you're preventing any sheeting off of that whole green area where the tent and the lawn is. So how are you preventing all that sheeting off? Because usually, you know, topping over in glacial moraine that's porous and unstable with all the boulders, you're going to get a collapse, and that's what you got. And I don't know how more boulders, without remediating the water runoff off that property, which is pretty much denuded, flat, and impervious, how you're going to keep those boulders in place. Because now it's like a real California mudslide, but we're adding boulders to it. So I just want to know how this is engineered. I personally think there should be a notice of intent, more detail, what the methodology should be, not just what you guys think. What we think, you think, we approve is what I think. But I'm very, very concerned. I looked at that wetland down below. I thought it was a drainage catch basin because it was so destroyed. So I don't know what's going on with that either. If that's a restoration project, we need to step that up a hair too. And I'm sorry to be so short, but it was pretty egregious. And what's left there is a hazard. I'm amazed you're even letting people be around there with those, you know, rocks that you're concerned about that can let loose anytime. But now you're going to add more boulders. Anyway, I'm not happy. You can tell I'm not very happy with this project. And I think it should be a notice of intent. We had a house that all they did is they moved it 3 feet and we made them file a new notice. This is basically a new section of that whole project out there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach, to one of Maury's notes, where is the roof runoff directed to?
May I share my screen? So right now in the proposed plan, what we actually have is there was a gutter system that was installed on the south side of the building. These were the original downspouts on top of the building that overflowed. They cascaded down onto an upper deck, which then eventually overflowed and caused the erosion in this general area on the south side of the building. So what we've done is this works under most rain events, normal rain events. This works. It's those catastrophic events that aren't planned for that it overtopped. So we have since put a gutter on the side. There's a trench drain at the bottom of the stairs to capture any runoff. And then the patio, there is a double-rated trench drain that was installed around that. That stormwater is then captured. All the roof runoff is put back further away from the slope on this side. And then an existing drainage system that was installed only takes the runoff from this small portion of the patio. Again, as previously reviewed with the commission when we were here to amend the permit originally, we did have a geotechnical engineer that went out. They did install monitoring wells along the south side of the building. One of our initial concerns was there bleed off or subsurface perched water table? They came back, this was bone dry. There was no hydraulic pressure on the back side of this wall as a result of the drainage system, and that there is no perched water table with this. Again, we do understand the concerns of the weight of the rocks, everything coming in, but we don't feel this is another means of being able to stabilize that slope just because of the steepness of the area. Again, this design has been put in to create a shelf to tow these rocks in and then build a rock wall back up. Again, this is not like the rock wall that was installed by the previous contractor on site. When they did that, they just laid stone right at the top, didn't bed it, and unfortunately the ground and the water ran through those rocks, and then that's what caused those rocks to slide down the slope. I mean, our end goal here is to get this stabilized, to protect the safety, health, and welfare, and then work with the commission to rectify our bad doings with these trees. Again, we don't want to see the trees come down. Mr. Tully can attest to it. The whole intent is to keep this as natural as possible. Again, we're just working with the circumstances with the unforeseen circumstances on the site. Again, we do apologize that we missed the special conditions that came on that. And I can't say sorry enough for that to the commission. We do respect your opinions. And if we could address them with this, I would. I mean, I'm a professional engineer. Anything I put out there, it's for the utmost to protect the safety, health, and welfare of the general public. I mean, that's my #1 goal. I mean, I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed that I'm here on these terms. So I can't say sorry enough.
Thank you. Pat?
I don't want to pile it on, but I'm sort of taken aback that this is the second time now that this landowner has submitted and been approved plans that are inadequate. The drainage off the roof obviously wasn't designed correctly. And this additional problem with this slope, which is not only destroying habitat with the work that you've done, but also creating an unsafe condition for a recreational use area. You know, we don't want our hands all over that. And I really do think that this is, as Maury said, is at the point where there should be a new notice of intent. But I also think it would be proper to require peer review to help us oversee the information that is being presented by this landowner and critique it. There's some specialties involved here, and I think a peer review consultant would be proper. Nothing else, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Peter?
No additional comment.
Steve?
Mr. Chairman, my question is, where do we go? What do we do? Is a notice of intent? Seems to be a step that I understand.
Courtney?
I've listened to all the comments and I've been a part of this history all along. And I think the mistake has been on the part of the new owners is that they didn't do their homework in the beginning and kind of glibly assume things that obviously have not worked out. And now they have a credibility problem, frankly. And I think now it's really incumbent on this being done right for everybody's sake, for the campground's sake, the general public's sake, for the environment, and I think an order of conditions and whatever else needs to be done to get it right and cover all the issues that are extant and potentially not understood, but you should understand them. In other words, you've commented that this is glacial till, all kinds of erratic. It's bony soil. The conditions change within a few feet of each other. And I think you guys just didn't do your research in the beginning, and now you got a problem. And it's got to be solved. You know, you guys have had problems with this, with your septic system, with all these different things. And it's like, every time I turn around, there's another problem up there. And it's time for it to stop. Thank you.
All right, so we need to figure out the best way to move forward because I happen to agree. I think it should be a whole new notice. I haven't thought of the peer review. It's probably not a terrible idea. However, having said all that, we have a spot that's been ripped open and is a lot more vulnerable than it was to begin with. But in my mind, that doesn't constitute an emergency on our part because somebody didn't follow protocol. Somebody didn't read the order of conditions. That's not on us. So just procedurally, we have, and anybody can pipe in and correct me if I'm wrong, but we can approve this, we can close this and attach some conditions. We can deny this and have them come in with a new notice, which is kind of my third point, is require a new notice. So if anybody else has any other ideas, throw them out there, but I think that's procedurally what we can do, correct, Jen?
Those are your two options, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Can we insist on hiring an independent consultant to go in and analyze it, given their credibility issues?
Courtney,
that would be peer review, correct? And
correct.
And we require that in an amended order of conditions, or does that have to come under the new notice of intent?
I mean, I know that's going to take longer time, but at this point, I think we need two steps. One, they've got to take some immediate things because of the nature of the issue and the dangers. But at this point, I think there has to be a peer review and this thing, look at the long-term solutions. And I'm too skeptical of where these guys are, and all due respect,
I've never seen a peer review under an amendment, Jamie. It doesn't mean it can't happen. Pat, do you have any, can you weigh in then that one?
Certainly. My memory of the peer review provisions in the regulations provide that they can be requested at any time during the hearing process.
Okay.
But I think that it would be a lot cleaner and more straightforward to have a notice of intent, deny this request for amendment, have them file a new notice of intent, and we require a peer review consultant fee be submitted so we can get some expertise on this.
The thing about the peer review is we probably will not have to go out for procurement on this one. If it's below a certain threshold, the town already has I believe it's 5 or 6 pre-vetted firms with all different areas of expertise, from construction to wetlands to just about everything. It covers all disciplines. So it wouldn't take that long to find a peer reviewer.
That's great.
And I can start asking our engineering group if that's what the commission would like to do, but you need to vote on the amendment first.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody understands what the options are. Maury?
I think more eyes on this. It's not that they're not doing, they don't know how to do it. I just think that maybe something might be missed and it could be picked up by somebody else. And I think it's important to have somebody looking at it through our lens. And the other thing is, I know that the design here was all well intended. New England is a whole different environment than a lot of the people that were involved in this from California. We have freezing weather, we have frozen ground, we have slumping ground, we have all sorts of things going on. And when I went up there, just that area that sheets off on a frozen day, the water that will go off that, none of it perks. It just sheets off over that hill. And then on, when we've had 7 or 8 or 10 days of biblical rain, then it just slumps. We've seen this in all sorts of projects. I mean, you can see it in your backyard on certain days. So I think the peer review would be very important. And I really think I'm going to vote against this as an amendment, because I really feel that it would make it clean to have it a separate entity to the whole other part of this project.
I would also add, I think that compounding this is that this is not, when it was bought by the companies doing it now, this is not essentially virgin ground that was never disturbed. It's been pushed around and filled and backfilled by the previous owners, and who knows how they did it. They could have pushed organic materials over and mixed them in with till and so forth. And so you've got all those unknown conditions that are at work here and may have a rationale behind what's going on. And that's why it's essential that, and to have this a second opinion, if you will, I also am concerned that in the short term, this is going to take time, and I think there needs to be some things done to make sure that the thing is stabilized and safe.
Agreed. Anybody else? Peter? No?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing if you're ready, Jamie.
Okay, I just have, yeah, I have, let me just ask one more question. Zach, do you know if there's, I don't know the word to use, proper fencing at the top to prevent some kids from jumping over the side?
We did have fencing at the top that was up there, correct, Liam? That was still up there the last time you were there?
Yes, we installed a post and rail with a wire back fence so kids couldn't go through that.
Thank you, Liam. I should have directed it to you. Sorry. Okay. All right. So Betsy's got a motion on the table to close this hearing. Is there a second? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Lucky me. Okay, so the motion and the second on the table is to accept the amended application.
No, it isn't. It's just to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're as presented. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that. Been a long night. All right. Betsy.
Gloucester, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
No. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And I.
All right. It is 7-1. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Next up, continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. Craig DeAmbra, Beckles Road Realty Trust, 31 Beckles Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 4643. I'm not sure that number is correct, but to permit the installation of 2 fire pits, a grass paved reinforced turf driveway, 10 cedar trees, and mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requesting a continuance until May 25th. One second, Mr. Chairman, while I check that DEP number. Beckles. It is. It's 4643.
Okay. We thought it was 25 dash. Okay.
Oh, wait. Oh, it is 20. I'm sorry. I missed the 25. It's 25-4643. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the applicant is requesting a continuance till 5/25.
So Bird, so move.
Carla Hawks,
Gladfelter, second.
All right. I have a motion and 2 seconds for continuance to 5/25. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 5/25.
Jamie, may I ask a question
Yes.
of Jen? The 25 part means Falmouth, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So they all have 25 in the front, Jamie.
Yeah, I'm merely pointing out that the number was.
We missed it.
Sorry, that's my bad.
Sorry. All right. Vote order of conditions. Brian Vaughn, 78 Gardner Road, Woods Hole, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is, what are they doing on this one? Oh, I tried to find my paperwork. Oh, there it is.
Wait a second, Jen. The quorum is Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Steve, Peter, Pat.
Not Maury, not Courtney.
Correct.
So they're doing a restoration plan, like an invasive species component, and it's just a general, I think, reconfiguration of the hardscape on the lot, right, Alyssa?
Yeah, they're redoing the parking area. They're doing the invasive species restoration.
Yeah.
A little area of improvement planting. They want to redo that fence, put in a patio, just northeast of the home. I think those are the general things.
Oh, a big issue.
I think one of the only issues the commission had was
the fence.
And then they came back with the metal, like slat looking fence. Correct, Alyssa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. It's on the plans. We're saying that it is.
They showed a picture of it.
Yeah, it's going perpendicular to the wave flow. They said it was going to be anchored and it was going to have aluminum written down.
Correct. It wasn't going to be like a stockade type fence.
Which is definitely improvement in the velocity zone, but a new structure in the velocity zone is not allowed. I don't know how we get around that.
Is that annoying precedent again?
Well, we had a case like this, and it was the house on, trying to think of what the road would be. So it was, you go past, just before you get to Bristol Beach, that corner that you go around where Grand Ave comes out, there was a house on that corner, and it basically has a privacy bush hedge, and they wanted to have a fence, and we wouldn't allow them to have a fence. We said it had to be a vegetative. You could build a vegetated structure. So I mean, that was the decision we made there.
Anyway, you know, aesthetically.
What?
I don't know why more people wouldn't want that anyway, aesthetically. You know, I mean, I'd rather look at a nice holly hedge or something like that than some stockade.
Yeah, so I'm reluctant to allow this fence. I mean, everything, it's a nice project, and I understand their privacy issue, but Jamie came up with a good idea. I don't know if Holly would live down there, but plant something that people don't want to have ripped their bodies in their clothes.
Some nice roses, huh, Jen?
Rose.
On a positive note, they're planting a lot of trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice project.
Okay. So basically, no fence in the visa.
No, but we
everything else you're good with.
And we would entertain them coming back and getting administrative approval for a vegetative barrier.
And you would allow staff to sign off on a vegetated barrier. Okay, got it loud and clear. That's
perfect.
All right. Anybody have anything else? All right.
I just had one note to add. Some of the plantings are being removed from in the public roadway. So they would need permission, correct, to work in the road layout?
Correct.
So with that, I'll make a motion to issue order of conditions as discussed, including the special conditions that we discussed.
Harris, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue the order of conditions as discussed. There's nothing else. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, Donna Haber Kornberg, trustee. Donna Haber Kornberg, 2021 Revocable Living Trust, 70 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass.
This is the pool, and then they're doing some sort of plantings on that really cool bank to that little pond. And then the only change I think you wanted, Mr. Chairman, was Raul to resize the, Jamie, what do you refer as? A dry well for the pool, a drawdown for the pool? We're trying
Drawdown tank.
Drawdown tank.
Drawdown
Remember
tank.
that,
So
Alyssa.
what they do maintenance, not necessarily annually, but they draw it down below the scuppers and such. So it's just a place to help the water disperse. But he has 1,000-gallon precast, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The question was it a regular dry well or was it something substantial? And he
Okay.
cleared that up, so I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, that's, I
And
think.
for
the
the
only-
record, Courtney is not on this forum.
Nor is Maury.
I am.
No more is on it.
I was on that one.
Oh, you are? Sorry, Maury.
All right, anybody have anything else they want to see in there?
I have a question, Jamie. Did he have that 1,000-gallon on the plan or
We did get
Yes.
a plan.
you got a revised? All right.
Yeah,
You
it was
got
kind
it
of vague
that
on
night
the
or the
initial
next
plan,
morning?
and that's why I asked about it.
Right. And I didn't see the revised plan, but I'm just confirming that
We have it.
you have it. Okay, I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Harris, second.
We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. And that's it, folks.
I make
a motion to adjourn.
Carlo Hawks, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Come on, Courtney.
Courtney, you mean-
Bird eye for sure.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Harris, aye.
Walsh, aye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.